Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Nancy Griffin, founder of Woman, Worth, and Wellness. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Peter. I understand your podcast is pretty popular.
Thank you for these kind words. I'm doing my best. Um, and I'm really proud that you're the guest on my podcast. And today I would like to discuss as much as possible about your work and how you see midlife crisis, how you manage to come out of midlife crisis on top and be better off than when starting, and what would you recommend for women and where you see how they should handle it, how they should handle their, let's say, wealth, their money, and how they should handle their wellness or even health. Uh, just before the show, we talked about how every one of us expects of our ladies to take care of our health, to be nurse, if not a doctor, to be to know everything about medicine, to help us when we feel down, and the whole family depends on their knowledge. So I would like to know more about that, and if you can share your story a bit so that our listeners can hear about your interesting life and how you came to be what you're representing now.
Peter, if I can answer your question completely, I will be ready to publish a book because that question has got. Anyway, I think I will start by saying at any given point in time, we have to be grateful that we're alive because that in itself is a privilege. We see what in the world is going on, and not everybody gets to live, and not everybody gets to live as well as we do. Not by any means. And so I really, when I was a wealth advisor, I started to focus on health as well because we take our health for granted. We get up in the morning, we head out, and everything is tickety-boo. We go, 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 doing our to-dos, 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 until something stops us in our tracks. And it could be all sorts of different things, but that's why I really, really focus on your health first. How healthy are you? How great do you feel? What is your mindset in terms of paying attention to your health, number one, before we even get to wealth? Now, when we talk about midlife, and well, always add on the crisis, it's never just midlife by itself, it's midlife crisis. And so that kind of means, well, you know, now that I'm getting older, it's like, I don't think I want to get older. Like nobody wants to get older, but guess what? There isn't a thing you can do about it except embrace it, make the most of it, and really get on with it. And I mentioned to you that the worst time for me was turning 39, because when I was 39, that means you're going to be 40. And if you're 40 as a woman, you're heading into menopause. And it's like, what the heck is that all about? So that wasn't pleasant. And actually, I was working at Procter and Gamble in Canada, and I realized that if I worked at Procter and Gamble for my whole life, I would have been there for, I think it was 45 years. And so you meet people after you've retired and they say, "Oh, Nancy, love to meet you. What have you done with your life?" And I would have said, "I work for Procter and Gamble." So all these things were going on in my mind. It was just a big swirl about, am I happy being where I am? What else would I like to do? If that's what I would like to do, how do I move on from this? It was a really, really, really soul-searching time. Anyway, I got beyond. I left Procter and Gamble. I ran politically and then was a community leader for 3 or 4 years. But I also mentioned to you that the best time was when I turned 50, because 39 to 50, and of course my 40s were all about reinventing, rediscovering, redirecting. And so by the time I was 50, I was in my new reality. And I mentioned to you that when I turned 50, I was really happy. I was really ready to celebrate. And dancing around, my daughter said, "Are you okay? Why, why are you so happy?" And I said, "Because I'm 50. Not everybody has the privilege of getting to 50." And, it's just a great moment in time. 50 years is a long period of time. But I was I was also acknowledging that it's a milestone. It wasn't like I would turn 50 and I've got 6 months to live. Turn 50 and keep on going. And that's exactly what I've done. So, those moments are just moments when you pause and reflect, have a big, big, big conversation with yourself in terms of where am I at? What do I want? What's my purpose? What's the thing that brings me the greatest joy? Like the airplane scenario when they tell you to put the oxygen on yourself. Okay, you've got the oxygen. Now what? Now what are you going to do to make the most of the fact that you're alive and to make the most of finding a way to help others be the best they can be and with a ripple effect, hopefully, so that the world is a better place for many.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Your story is so amazing. First, if it's not too personal, have you ever used a coach, a mentor, or a therapist to help you out of your midlife crisis?
Oh, yes, I became a participant in a program called the Strategic Coach. And I was in Toronto at the time. They're in Vancouver. You may know of them in Vancouver. I think they're in LA. They're also in London, England. And that is a great program. Every quarter you meet with another group of entrepreneurs. And it does become quite spiritual and philosophical to a certain extent, but you're also running a business. So you want to scale that business. So there's a lot of numbers as well. But the one thing that the program emphasizes to the max is that everybody has unique ability. And what is your unique ability? And that is exactly one of the ways that the whole women worth and wellness came to the forefront. And once you define what your unique ability is and what you're working on, immediately they tell you to put a trademark on it. Like put a trademark, which is wonderful because you do a trademark, you put a stake in the ground. And now you've got a brand to bring forward and advance.
Amazing. Now I would like to talk about one cliche and one that I believe will become cliche very soon. And that is investment in knowledge yields the best dividends. That was a cliche for, let's say, in the 80s and in the 90s. Um, would you agree that in today and in the future, this will be true for investment in our health and well-being?
Exactly. And we all know that AI is looming, and we've all got different understandings of what it is and different attitudes towards what it is. I was on a podcast yesterday, and this AI expert said, AI is now your partner. It is no longer a tool. And there's quite a difference between the two. It isn't like you can choose to use AI or not. AI is your partner. And so AI as a partnership in your health and your wealth and your whole total well-being is going to be incredible. It's a little scary, but over history, there have been many scary moments in time. And really, we can't turn the clock back. So it's up to us if we want to keep on advancing as well as we possibly can to choose AI as a partner.
Do you see AI also as an investment opportunity or mainly as a tool to help us improve our lives?
Both.
Mhm.
Both, definitely both. The community that I live in is very small. It's kind of like the Hamptons out of New York. It's called the county, and it's an agricultural gem. We've got over 90 wineries here, and of course, lots of good food to go with it. And it's about 2.5 hours from Toronto, 2.5 hours from Ottawa, and about 3 or 4 from Montreal. So it's in a really sweet spot to bring a lot of terrific people in, and a lot of terrific people have arrived here. What I'm hoping to lead is an AI community event that will bring in, well, Evan Solomon is our new minister for AI. Bring him in. Our member of parliament was a journalist for 35 years. That's one of the areas that's going to be affected the most. But a week ago, I went to a top of the line dairy operation, and you see all the things that are going on in their world. So AI will be a partner for us all. It's just understanding how that will happen and what it will be and making sure that we're not making the wrong choices. Because the same way there's a lot of goodness is going to come from this, proceed with caution.
Okay, so I will push in my direction again. Do you believe that AI will help us and next generation handle midlife crisis better?
Definitely.
Will we have more feedback? Will we have uh, better advice than we now have with all the therapists and coaches and community?
Definitely. Definitely. And I really like your approach of as we go along, we learn more about ourselves. I think there will be great ways that we'll learn more about ourselves. And going back to your question about health, if you put your finger on the same way we have passwords now with our unique, if you put that on and then out comes your health scenario.
Mhm.
This is what you've got going for you. These are risks that you should be concerned about. I think it's going to be amazing. Amazing. And then the next question is, okay, how are we going to deal with that? Once you know what the status is, how are you going to what are you going to do to accept some of the recommendations that are being made? You better start running 10 marathons a year, Nancy, if you want to live to be 100. I'm being facetious, but those are the sorts of things that we can expect will come from it.
Okay, so do you think that motivation and self-control will become easier to obtain than today when we will be using AI more?
Motivation and self-control. Those are
Yeah.
kind of opposite. Motivation means going forward. Self-control means kind of holding you back.
Yep.
Again, it comes back to our brain. What are you choosing? Like, what are you choosing? There's the buffet. What are you choosing that is going to make your future better? And if you buy into what's being presented, then you will probably be motivated to move towards. But I guess self-control would be if it's too much of a good thing, are you going to put some brakes on or are you going to keep on going?
So how will we know where the healthy boundaries are if we're gonna interact with AI all the time?
I think our brain will always override AI.
Okay.
So that's why we need to be healthy. We need to keep our brain healthy
Mhm.
so we can make critical choices when it's presented to us.
What is your opinion on body cognition? How important is our body in our everyday life and in decision making? Is healthy
It's
body
it.
important?
It's everything. If we don't have our body, who are we? Really? And that's why you've got to keep your body healthy. We take it for granted. We live in our bodies. We get up in the morning, we head out, and it's like go, 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 go. Your body is your vehicle. Your body is your vehicle. And speaking of vehicle, you look after your car. You make sure your car is insured. You make sure you've got proper protection with tires and weather and, yada, yada, yada. So looking after your body is an excellent first start. Really, really excellent first start. And your body is your whole being. That includes your brain and the way you think, your heart, what you care about. It's huge.
How related are wealth and healthy body so the healthy body and let's say healthy financial situation, how related
Right.
are they?
Well, you were in the investment business. I was in the investment business. And you know how stressful it can be if people don't understand their whole wealth scenario. And that doesn't mean how much money you have got. It is what is your wealth plan that is meeting your needs, not just today, but going forward into the future. And one of the things that I emphasize constantly is that you're working with a trusted advisor, both for your health as well as for your wealth. And that trusted advisor will give you the guidance that you need to have so that you understand where you're at, what you're doing, what you've got, and why you needn't worry because that wealth advisor is maximizing everything in your wealth scenario to ensure that it's the best for you today and for the future. Most important. And you know how awful life can be if people are worrying about money, and both in terms of where the markets are, they up and down all over the place. How does that affect me? I'm going to be living on the street. It's like, blah, 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 blah. Worry, worry, worry. Work with a trusted advisor, and they'll make sure you don't need to worry.
Okay, that is a good advice. Um, However, a lot of us, and especially when we're going a midlife crisis, uh, we become inclined to gamble, to do something, to make money fast, to assume more risk, to feel alive. So, what's your take on that? Because that is integral part of midlife crisis, assuming above average risk and doing stupid stuff. Um, so how can we avoid that? How can we identify that we're doing something wrong?
Again, work with a wealth advisor. They'll keep the reins on you. And maybe you've got some money that you haven't told that person you have. And maybe that's your little pocket that you're going to take some risks with. But as a smart person, know what the consequences are of that risk. Really,
Mhm.
you must know what the consequences are, because the last thing that you want to have is regrets. So you need to talk to yourself and just say, okay, I've got everything under control over here. I do have this little bit of money that I want to maybe head into crypto or something like that. Okay, that's fair enough. But just make sure that you're not disturbing the base of the wellness plan that you've got in place with your trusted advisor. And quite frankly, you might even want to declare the fact that you're taking some risks, because maybe this wealth advisor has got something that they can recommend that gives you that taste for risk without risking way too much.
Mhm. So coming back to the healthy body, um, so how can where is the boundary? Where should we be worried? How do we know that we are not quite there yet? Of course, we understand that we are not as fit as fitness models, but where would you say that it's the healthy boundary? What should we take care? What is where you see the people? When should we start worrying that we are not, as you said, that we are not maintaining our vehicle?
Well, I think it comes from when we're kids. Obviously, our parents want us to be healthy, and they gave us a lot of advice and encouragement to be healthy. Like, eat your breakfast. How do you expect to blah blah blah? So you pay attention to a lot of that basic advice that you have. We're not stupid people. We know that we need to exercise and eat properly. If we're going to be drinking alcohol all the time and eating the wrong stuff all the time, I mean, we're smart enough to know that that's going to have some derogatory com effects on our health. So, being that smart person, find a way to be even smarter. And again, I go back to the trusted advisor. Have a trusted health related advisor who's guiding you with your health. Now, you can still do all sorts of crazy things, but at the end of the day, that person's going to have a read on how well you're doing. You know what it's like, Peter, when you start a new relationship with a wealth advisor. They
Mhm.
do a complete inventory on your assets and liabilities and investments and so on and so forth. It's know your client. And if you haven't known your client properly and they do something that's out of line, you're at risk of losing your credentials. Same thing in the medical profession. If you go to a new doctor, first thing they do is blood work, because they want to get a handle on what you've just told them. Like, how many drinks do you have a day? None. Okay, that blood work comes back. It seems to me. And so my point is, trusted advisor, really, they're there to help you be your best so you can do your best. And it's just like the oxygen on the airplane. Okay, you've got the oxygen on. Now what? Now what are you going to do in order to be your best and to give your best and to share your best? I yap on all the time about trusted advisors. So I am fortunate enough to have a doctor. And a year ago, you do the blood work, and he said, "Well, Nancy," and I'm very lucky because I'm free from just about everything. I've been very vibrant, very healthy. Anyway, he says, you're kind of getting borderline with cholesterol. And he said, you might think about starting some medication. Okay. As an aside to that is a really good friend who's 5 years older, just had a heart incident, and she was so upset that her doctor had not had that conversation with her. So I'm betwixt and between. He said, Nancy, you're borderline, which means we can go forward with some medication. Or I basically said I would prefer not to go there until I have to. On the other hand, I'm big on prevention. And I said, well, why don't we just wait until the next, assessment? Well, sure enough, the other morning, don't I get a note from the doctor? I've sent a requisition to the lab, go in and get blood work. So we know what this conversation is going to be now. I don't know what the results of the blood work are going to show. Maybe it's the same as last year. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's better. I don't know. But my point is, that's my trusted health advisor who's on the case. And all he had to do from a year ago, nothing happened in between, was suspense that note to come up a year later and send that to me. Of course, he'll assess the blood results when they come back. And then, so it doesn't take much, but get yourself in the loop so that you have that support that will help you be your best so you can do your best. None of us does our own dental work. I
Mhm.
don't think. Do you do your own dental work?
No, not yet.
So that's my point. Work with trusted advisor to help you be your best.
Mhm. Okay, so if I understand correctly, midlife can be really tough, but if you have an advisor, you will get out alive. Now, I would like to discuss a bit about gender differences in midlife and how you see, because you're specialized in women, how you see the difference between men and women. You were working in, let's say, male-dominated profession, uh, wealth advisors. Um, how do you see where are the shortcomings? We had a brief conversation before the recording, and you said a lot of tests just consider women to be the same as men or be a bit smaller than men, and that's it. And the heart disease and everything is just considered like that. They don't go into details because they so the current situation is still that the differences are not maybe not perceived, but they people don't even care about differences because we are so deep in the narrative that we are all equal and same.
Well, um, for women, we know about menopause, and that just kind of comes over like, yikes. Anyway, I recently did a whole presentation on menopause.
Mhm.
And of course, I remember, and I included this in the presentation because my husband said, it's not all about you. Men have andropause. Men go through similar psychological challenges about midlife. And I said, okay, well, let's lower the microscope. So we did andropause, menopause. Andropause definitely is a huge reality because it's a loss of testosterone and that hormonal effect. But for women, it is a whole lot more. It really is a whole lot more. Um, I'll leave it at that. We don't need to go off on that whole tangent because it's huge. I'm currently working with Sinai Women's Health in Toronto. They've come up with a fabulous campaign called Hot and Bothered. And they're encouraging people to raise money by doing cold plunges. And of
Okay.
course, now they're on to 2.0 because they're doing a whole investment into women's health. It's also something that Melinda French Gates has just set aside $100 million for research into women's health. So, and I did a presentation to a bunch of wealth advisors, who were mostly men, and this one man said, oh my goodness, he said, I thought it was just night sweats. It's a whole lot more. I said, if you want to have a lot, he said, I'm in an age 55 plus community. I said, if you want to have a lot of fun, sometime when you're at a cocktail reception, just say, let's talk about menopause. You you will be amazed at the stories that you'll hear because women won't talk about them. Like you just don't talk about it. But once they start sharing their stories, you'll be amazed.
Okay. So can we move about a bit in the wealth sector?
Yes, of course.
How is the midlife different for men and women? Where do you see the main difference? What happens for men and what happens for women? Where do you see that uh, that the generic advice is not good for both genders?
Well, I think men, 50, midlife, from a career standpoint, I think that's when it kind of is, it's a, it's a plus or a minus. Like, how well am I doing? And how much more do I want? And am I teed up for all those good things in the corporation in which I'm currently employed? Or not? And maybe that's when you decide you want to be an entrepreneur, but that there's a real showstopper. I think for women, midlife is, I know my longevity is greater than my partner's, assuming your partner's a male. And am I going to be okay or am I going to be a bag lady? And so you're really paying attention to the fact of the matter is you've come this far, but on the other hand, you've still got a long way to go. And do I have enough money that is going to support the lifestyle that I want going forward? I'd really like to retire now, but I can't afford to retire now because in retirement, I'm going to have a lot of years. So it just depends on what your scenario is and where you are and what you're doing, that you're taking a look at the number of dollars that you have currently and the number of dollars that you think that you will need. If you decide that you want to retire 10 years from now and you've got a really, really rich retirement plan in place, meaning the activities that you want to pursue, will I have enough money to support all of that? If I won't, what do I need to start doing now to do my best to be able to achieve that goal? So lots and lots and lots of different things going on. And again, going back to the wealth advisor, if that person is helping you prepare for retirement, which could be 10 years from now, that person will be asking you a lot of those questions. What are you looking forward to in retirement? What about your kids? Is that something that you feel you need to be setting some dollars aside to support? All sorts of questions to maximize the amount of wealth that you do have so that it can meet your goals.
Okay, so there is a distinct difference between genders, and
Right.
as you said, the biggest one is that statistically, women will live much longer, and that is why they need to plan differently. So, before we conclude this podcast, is there anything that you would like our listeners to take from this podcast? What is the most important that they should know if they want to resolve their midlife crisis?
Okay, number one, your life is a privilege and treat it that way.
Mhm.
And number two, you are your greatest asset. So any asset that you own, you treat it well. So really, really, really make yourself a priority and never feel guilty making yourself the priority. I mean, obviously, you're going to continue to assume or to look after all of the responsibilities you've assumed, but take some time for yourself. Really, really, really take some time for yourself. And to repeat myself, make sure you've got trusted advisors for your health and your wealth and live your life and love your life. Know that you're worthy of having the best life possible. The worth in women worth and wellness both pertains to net worth and self-worth, but it also pertains to you are worthy.
That's amazing. Thank you for these insights. Before we finish, just where can our listeners see your work? Where can they get in touch?
If they send me an email, they'll go into our database and it's Nancy at womenworthwellness.com. Nancy at womenworthwellness.com. And once you're in our database, then you'll hear what we're up to. We're on all the social media, so you can check us out on there. But this fall, we're coming up with some new offerings, so you may not want to miss out on them. So send us an email and ask me any question you want. I'm a 24/7 kind of person. If I didn't get you before I went to bed, I'll get you when I wake up in the morning. And but it's been a pleasure, Peter. You're doing really, really good work and focusing on midlife, not always the crisis. Sometimes it can be just a fabulous moment in time so that you can celebrate your life and love your life and live your life.
Nancy, thank you. Thank you again for all these insights.
You're welcome. Thank you.